Everybody, welcome to the meeting today. Before we start, we're going to do a pledge of allegiance. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Sorry for the delay here. Okay, welcome everybody. Okay. Welcome everybody. So we had our roll call. We had adequate notice. So I just want to say I know school's right around the corner. Excited for the school to start for everybody.
Wait, what?
Great.
School starting soon?
School starting soon, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I see all the administrators here, all happy.
You guys on top of that at all? All right, good.
I think Vic made a comment to me. He said summer's way too long. So I actually don't know how to interpret that, but and by the way, Vic, I don't want you to have enemies now. Just
Yeah, a couple New Jersey districts already started with kids. We can make that happen if you want.
But I do want to say, by the time we have our next meeting, we'll already be a week or so into it. So I just want to wish everybody, a good 2022-2023 school year. Hope everybody's safe, productive, has a great time, and only good things happen for everybody kind of in the school district, right? So I just want to kind of wish everybody the best. Okay. With that, let me turn it over to the superintendent's report. So Jim, would you like to do your report?
I would like to do my report, Jeff. Thank you. So yeah, so we have some students with us this evening, which is great. So it's typically we don't get students this early in the school year, but we've got them this year, so that's fantastic. So we are very pleased and proud tonight to welcome Ocean Township Daisy Brownie Troop 60305. Is that accurate? Yes. Okay. Very good. So members of this troop raised money for new backpacks and filled them with school supplies. And this was their second annual backpack drive. And tonight, I think they wanted to present, maybe? We think, yes. 15 backpacks that they purchased for the school district. And of course, this generous donation will help.
Building today. It was so cute. Oh, I didn't even see it. Oh, that's so nice. What are they doing?
That's wonderful.
Which one is going to make the big presentation in front of the hundreds of people that are watching?
Like I said, those are very cool backpacks. So that's outstanding. Very good. Hold on. We'll get a shot.
Yeah, girls, can you go stand in front? See all those the Spartan heads where it says Ocean Spartans?
Crazy. Oh my God.
Scooch in.
Hiya.
So let me just, while we're doing that, let me just introduce our folks. So the Daisy Troop leaders are Samara Catalona and Tammy Kay. And the kids involved were Yvette Catalona, Gabby Hartman, Savannah Kay, Micah Mark, Alyssa Reichman, Gabby Redelia, and Melanie Vargas. So thank you so much. Congratulations. And that's fantastic. Are you guys excited about coming to school next week? Be honest. Oh, there you go. Well,
My own heart.
there you go. So
She likes to go shopping for
he
it.
likes to go shopping for school. So a little bit of school supplies, a little bit of something else, right? Right, that's how the shopping goes. Well, good. Well, you still have a whole week of summer left, so take advantage of every second of it, okay? You're gonna go to the beach? Oh, you're gonna go swim? You're not gonna go again before school starts? Yes, absolutely. Can we all go to that? All right. Nice. All right. Charge a premium, make a few bucks out of it. Well, Daisy Brownie Troop 60305, thank you so much. It's very, very exciting, and I'll tell you, a lot of other students will benefit tremendously from your efforts and from your generosity. So thank you so much for that donation. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you. Okay. We also want to, there are a number of other groups that helped us out with backpacks, and we appreciate it. So we'd also like to thank the residents of Cedar Village in Ocean Township, the over 55 community of which I'm getting much closer, for their very generous donation of backpacks stuffed with school supplies. And the backpacks and supplies, of course, will be distributed around the district. They had their Stuff the Bus campaign, so that was terrific from Cedar Village. And also the good folks at St. George Greek Orthodox Church for their donation of backpacks, also filled with supplies that'll go to our elementary students around the district. So, you know, we know how expensive things are getting. We know how prices have gone up and how that has dramatically impacted the pocketbooks of many of those of us who live in town. And so these donations really go a long way of helping a lot of people have the things they need to start school. So thank you, ladies. Thank you to the Greek Church and to Cedar Village. We really, really very much appreciate the donation. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to other stuff. So if you don't need to stick around, if you don't, you're very welcome to.
I feel like Evie's staying all night.
Stick around.
Yeah, I go get ice cream.
Yeah, I would go celebrate at school.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd recommend the raspberry chocolate chip at Scrooge.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, ladies.
All right, so thank you. All right, so one thing, the other thing I need to talk about is really a compliance discussion as part of our federal funding through for COVID. We are required to kind of give an update every 6 months or so on our safe return to school plan. So this is the update. It really has not changed in any way from last year. So that plan is posted. It's really, like I said, more of a compliance thing. Many of the things that are part of many of the components of that plan are in some ways not really applicable any longer, but you know, this is a requirement of our grant funding. So if there's any particular questions on the Safe Return to School plan, happy to answer them. But I think it's all fairly self-explanatory. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so the other thing that I wanted to bring up in this, in my report is we're going to move, I think there was a desire to move the discussion of section 12.2 related to our agreement with our class 3 officers up to my report, so that we had perhaps more ample time for discussion. So the contract is on.
It's 11.2 now.
Oh, it's 11.2.
Oh, I'm sorry, 11.2.
It was 12.2.
I'm sorry. So 11.2, forgive me. So the contract regarding our work with the class 3 and our partnership with Ocean Township Police Department to provide class 3 officers for the schools. So latest conversation with Chief Sorrentino this afternoon or this morning is that he feels extremely confident that we will have 5 class 3 officers ready to go for September 6th. So that's where we stand. And that's so one for each building. And he's putting the finishing touches on a couple of new folks that will be with us. But as I said, feels very confident. Now, I know at last board meeting, the board had asked us to sort of look into the idea of making sure that we did not have a time that our schools were not manned, if you will, by an armed guard, whether it be a class 3 officer or one of our security personnel. So we in discussing with Mike Pendleton, who's our head of security here in the district, also with Chief Sorrentino, the plan basically is that so we have our class 3 officers. If a class 3 officer is not able to attend, not able to work on a particular day, there is not at this time sort of any extra class 3 officers in the town. So the 5 we have are the 5 that exist. But if the town does employ some class 2 officers that are typically seasonal officers, typically work in the summer. So there's the opportunity to cover with a class 2 officer. That would be the second choice. That would be the next option after the class 3. And then if the class 2 officer is not available, then we do have the ability to arm some of our in-district security folks who are retired police officers who are licensed to carry in the state of New Jersey. And we do have the ability to do that. So of course, that is, that's what the board asked me to look into. So we have that capability, and we do have, as part of our personnel agenda this evening, some of our folks to authorize them when needed and only when needed under my direction to carry if the other options of the class 3 officer and the class 2 officer are not available in a particular building. So those are the kind of the things on the table for the night related to, having the armed folks in the schools.
And just some background to the previous discussions. One is that as a board at some point in time ago, we were trying to get an armed class 3 officer at each school, right? That's been one of the missions that we had. And then we were, but the majority of discussion the other day was trying to figure out a methodology on how to handle gaps if a class 3 officer should call out sick or be an extended leave, or how that would work. So, Jim, I think, did you have more on your superintendent's report?
This is the last item
Last
that I
item,
would bring up.
So do we have any discussion you want to have here around the superintendent's report? Alex, did you?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Dr. Stefan, could you go over a little bit more, some of the plans on the school security guards? Separate from class 2, separate from class 3s. Can you tell us in the public like what their training is, what our district liability would be? What kind of training they would get? I'm a little uncomfortable with agreeing to anything without a concrete set of training set up by the PD.
Well, our folks, the folks that we would have that would carry are all, like I said, retired police officers. In order for them to maintain their license to carry, they have to go through a pretty rigorous series of trainings and I guess assessments, if you will, to maintain that license. Obviously, they're all individuals who are very familiar with our kids, our school district, our schools. And many of them were hired because they worked as when they were part of the various police agencies they were with, often worked with kids, whether it be the DARE programs or were juvenile officers or something like that. So they had a lot of experience working with young people. I mean, remember that for these situations, we're really talking about last resort. I mean, this is not these are it's purely, obviously for the protection of our students and staff, and they would be individuals who, like I said, would be the third line if there's not a class 3, if there's not a class 2, to ensure that, there's at least, one armed guard in every school building each day. The trainings would be done in conjunction with OTPD. I don't have at this time a particular schedule or exactly what all that would entail. I can certainly have that for the next board meeting. But, I know that they would work very closely with OTPD, throughout the school year to ensure that they, have the training necessary to be able to maintain that function within the school. But I can, as far as the particulars on that, it's still very, we've kind of developed this in the last week or so, and so we haven't really gotten to those specifics, but I can certainly have them more by the next meeting. I also did speak to Chief Sorrentino. The board, as was mentioned in a previous meeting, that, when we started this initiative, we did ask Chief Peters at the time to come in and talk, and did speak with Chief Sorrentino, the fact that we're kind of taking this to a little bit of a higher level at this point, if he would be willing to come in at some point, if the board wished, and speak with the board about, the current situation and the current initiatives, and he said he would be more than happy to do that. So I think as we plan for the next meeting or two, we can certainly discuss if we want to have that be the case.
Good, thanks. Yes.
Okay. Was this decision made in conjunction with the building principals and the security team currently in place?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And will the students be told about this, especially on the high school level?
Well, what do you mean? Can you
Okay,
explain what you
well, they
mean?
know that they already see the class 3 officer in uniform carrying. Will they be told that the officers that they see without weapons will on occasion be carrying?
Well, I think that that's something that we should make our public aware of, make our parents aware of, right? And I have a letter that's going to be going out tomorrow, and obviously I want to do that as a result of what happens here tonight, right? And include some things tonight. Are you talking about identifying a particular individual or just the concept in general?
The concept in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Mr.
that,
So-and-so is going to be walking around, but
yeah, well, I mean, I think that it was certainly my intention, depending on what occurred here this evening, to be able to communicate that in a letter I'm going to be sending out, along with some other things to our parents and to our community. Yeah, I mean, how the individual building principals will address that, and certainly will be addressed with their staff, right, as part of that discussion, so that staff is aware. And, I mean, to be honest, we really haven't had the conversation about how, students outside of, seeing the letters that go home to parents would necessarily be notified. I wasn't, certainly any letter going home, we don't really get in great detail about some of our security procedures. I think just to suffice to say that we've put a plan in place in conjunction with our partnership with OTPD to ensure that there's an armed individual in each building on a daily basis, similar to what we did last year after the Uvalde tragedy, when we sent something home saying that we're going to have, that we're going to have that, we're going to have that covered and work with PD to ensure that we have that going on. So
that's good. Thank you.
Ms. Hayes?
You said you got the buy-in from security and principals. How does the teachers union feel about this, since those teachers will be seeing these security guards?
I have to be honest, I don't, Mr. Allen and I have spoken a couple of times this week, and I don't know that I've had that discussion with him. I don't believe I have.
Okay.
So,
And now,
however, I mean, I will say that I know that as a general rule, I think our association is certainly supportive of our class 3 initiatives and supportive of that. So but I did not have the specific discussion about our people carrying. But there's just so, I mean, I don't know if this is part of your conversation or not. Those individuals, our security our team is not part of the association.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't have that discussion as part of that, but I just haven't had the discussion yet. Mike, if you're on the line, call me tomorrow, we'll have that discussion.
For tonight.
I have a couple questions, but it sounds like Ms. Heath does as well. So do you want to let her finish and then I can go?
Have we been in touch with, well, first of all, I'm sorry. Do we know if we would be the first district in Monmouth County who is considering arming our security guards? I'm not talking about class 3, I'm not talking about cops or SROs. They are our regular old security guards. Are we gonna be the first, or if we're not?
We would not be the first. I can't say that I know all the districts that have their own security teams, but there are, right, I think you sent that
Mhm.
around, right.
Yep,
Well, I know of at least a few that have them and have had them for
okay,
a few years, I believe.
4, 10,
I don't believe it's a significant amount that have their own. Many work with SROs or class 3s. But
no,
I think
not
Howell, for
talking
example,
about those.
I think Howell is
Yeah.
one that has employed their own folks for a while. That's one that I'm pretty sure of, but
okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't believe, we're certainly not the first, but I don't think that that's a very common practice. More often than not, it's law enforcement.
And speaking of law enforcement, have we reached out to the prosecutor's office or
No.
the AG at all, just to kind of
No.
get some guidance on any of this? Okay. I have a couple more questions, but I'll,
So just for clarification, class 3 officers are what we have now. We've had them for a couple of years.
Yeah.
This would be the first time that we have coverage at all 5 schools. Up until now, we've operated without class 3 officers at every school. Wait, let me finish.
I'm
Those
sorry.
are employed by Ocean Township Police Department. And then class 2 officers are also current police officers employed by the Township of Ocean Police Department. So
Correct.
at hand is considering arming Ocean Township School District employees
Correct.
who were once upon a time a police officer, but that may have been quite some time ago.
Could be.
Okay.
Not at all.
Just wanted to
And
clarify.
remember, that is only when a class 3 or a class 2 officer is not available for a particular building. They would not be armed on a regular basis or
And I'm gonna ask
Okay.
a question, and I feel like it may come across as being flip, and that's not the intention. There are many districts across this country sitting where we are now, talking about arming teachers. This, to me, is a hair away from that, because the next conversation, a year from now, somebody brings up, well, there's too many absences, or we don't have enough security guards that want to do this. So how are we assured that this is not a slippery slope to arming teachers?
well, I think, I mean,
Well,
do you want to?
well, first of all, I think there's legislation that would have to go through to actually allow something like that, right? I don't think it's something that arbitrarily as a school district, we can have a policy to actually implement that. I think it would be legislative.
Yeah.
I want to have the legislation that would first kind of rule whether that was even permissible to be able to do that.
I mean, I believe I've heard that the NJEA is not in favor of that, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, nor would I tell you that I'm in favor of that. Yeah, I mean, I think I made it pretty clear last week that I'm not a big fan of multiple guns in schools. I mean, we have had a situation where we've had an armed officer in our schools for the last several years. I've worked in previous district with armed officers as well. I do have complete faith in our security team. I really do. But this is new territory. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, do I think that we certainly don't want to be the wild, wild west, right? In terms of having, carrying in school. At this time, it is absolutely not permissible for a staff member outside of, those with whom we've authorized, whether they're capable of carrying or not legally, to have a gun in the school. There's policy against that, right? So we would have to change significantly our current policies. And I think Mr. Weinstein is correct in that laws would have to be enacted in order to allow something like that to happen.
Okay, so again, to clarify, I'm not questioning the ability or the intentions of any of our security personnel. My kids go to school here. I feel safe sending them every day. You brought up Uvalde. We all saw that. We all saw Parkland. We all saw the failure, the colossal failure of the good guys with a gun.
Mhm.
So have we done, this, to me, this is really being pushed through very quickly. We talked about this at 11:30 at night 2 weeks ago, and now we're voting. I think that's highly inappropriate, for the record. Along those lines, what studies have we done? What research have we looked into to see the instances of when an armed district employee stops violence in a school? Have we done that research?
Not intensive research. I mean, certainly, there is no doubt, I think, based on, some of the examples that you just gave, that, and others, Columbine, others, that an armed person, armed security official in the district does not guarantee in any way that a tragedy could not happen. However, I think that there's probably a lot of instances that we either don't know about or don't hear about or whatever it may be, where, having that presence, the fact that it's known, the fact that, could that put a lot of doubt in somebody's mind?
You
Maybe.
can't say you
It's
think
conjecture.
probably. You can't say that. That's
Oh.
not, we're talking facts here, right? We're talking
Yeah,
about,
well, I mean,
sorry.
it's okay.
I asked if we did research, and the answer to that is that we have not done research.
No, I've not done research.
Thank you. I'll yield for now.
Ms. Hicks,
I'm sorry, you want to ask?
oh, I thought your hand was up.
Uh,
If you want, John can answer it. Whoever wants to answer first.
The one question I had, you discussed this policy with the chief,
Yes.
and what was his response to that? Was he in support of this? Do you think this is a bad idea?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't think it's a bad idea in any way. I mean, I think we all are most comfortable with having this service be carried out by law enforcement officials. I think that's the first and the second choice, right? And that's how the plan goes. This would be third choice. And I don't want to, though, say that the likelihood of this being needed could not happen and could not happen sooner than later. I mean, this, we could, it's possible that one of the class 3 officers might need a day off soon or whatever it may be. There may not be a class 2 available. So I certainly don't want to give the impression that do I think this would be used a lot? No, I don't think it would be used a lot, but I certainly don't want to say that there couldn't be, 50 days out of the year, not per school, maybe total, that we would need to utilize our own folks serving in this capacity. I mean, that's a guesstimate. I would just, but based on the attendance, what we did look at is the attendance of our class 3s over the last several years, and it's very good. But, each will miss a handful of days, just under normal circumstances. That doesn't include if there's a special circumstance that one might need to go out on a leave or something like that. Just under normal circumstances, they miss a handful of days in a year. So, let's take it to a max and say they miss 10 a year, right? So that'd be about 50 days. So.
And then, was there unanimous support from the school administrators of this? Did you receive any dissent from any of them?
Well, look, I do think in my discussions with the administrators, I think there's always concern. I think there was concern about class 3s. I mean, anytime that there are, like we discussed last week, when we're putting weapons in a school, there could be things that could happen that could result from that in a negative way. I think that what we're not talking about, and we made it clear last week, is putting multiple people with multiple weapons, right? I mean, I think the fact that we're even having this conversation should make all of us uneasy to a degree. It's a conversation we shouldn't have to have, but we do, and we have it. And I've always been firmly of the belief that the efforts on the front end of working with kids, which everyone is responsible for, every teacher, every student, every parent, every staff member, being aware and seeing what's going on around them and paying attention and then bringing information that they learn to our administration, our security team, to our teacher, that far and away is, I believe, the most effective school security. When you need your armed guard is often way later than you'd ever want to get, right? And so, but it's another layer, right? And could knowing that there's an armed guard in the school cause someone to say, this is not something I'm going to do here? Maybe. It certainly hasn't been the case in other schools where there are armed guards and kids have unfortunately gone to that place, right? So it's certainly not a guarantee of anything.
Okay,
I just have a comment to make. So I think uneasy is a bad choice of word here. I don't think that we should feel uneasy about this. I think that we should be extremely careful, and I commend the other members of the board for the questioning that they're asking, and that we aren't, even though, I had brought forward this motion to look into this, I admittedly, have reservations as well, right? But uneasy is not a term I used to describe for when a police officer is present with children who is trained with that sidearm. And these individuals that are on the security program are they not all retired officers? They're not all retired, but they served.
Not all of our security staff are retired officers. The majority, overwhelming majority of our security team are retired.
So to clarify, the individuals that we're looking at to be able to carry.
All retired officers.
Thank you. Okay, I apologize for misspeaking.
No, it's
Thank you. So with that, these are individuals that have been trusted to serve and protect the community for years. So I'm not uneasy about them being present with a firearm. I am questioning it. I have reservations, but I appreciate and commend that we have looked into this so far so that we have redundancy in this security, right? So that there are multiple points of failure instead of a single point of failure. And I think that we do need to look at it from this way. And if we don't, I'm worried that based on the questioning that tonight, that we may potentially not approve this. And if that is the case, and that is what the board decides, I'm subject to that. But then I would ask that we figure out some way to come up with a new redundancy that is going to ensure that there is someone in these schools if we're uncomfortable with this situation. And I understand that everybody is saying that this was decided at 11:30 the last time. I think it was a little bit earlier than that, because I believe we got out at that time. And I believe that this was discussed earlier than the final items that we discussed in old business, but this has been brought up for a very long time. And yes, it's unfortunate that here we all were under a tight timeline, but I think there's nothing wrong with having redundancy in the security in our school systems. I think that if this is not the solution that we come to tonight as a board, we need to be prepared to be here to come to another one. And now we're under even tighter of a timeline. So that's all I just want to point out.
Okay, thanks, John. Natalie?
Alex was first.
Oh, Alex, okay. Alex?
I think just two questions. So I think we were tasking the administration to look into possibly security firms. Ms. Talarico did bring that up. Were any of those firms looked into as an option?
I did some searches, and I spoke with Chief Sorrentino if he was aware of any. The one thing I did appear to come across was cost. They were very cost prohibitive. And so I really didn't pursue it significantly beyond that, particularly, with the conversations of, for me, if we're going to do it, I'd rather have if we were going to do this, then I'd rather have our folks who we know and have worked with us and who we're very familiar with than, and I'm not saying that those firms would not potentially be good, it's just with the cost and we don't really know them and, So no.
And then this is kind of a comment slash question. Like, just even tonight, we've heard, we're still working on this. Well, we haven't had that conversation yet. We don't know what the PD training is gonna be. But, and you're saying, you know, this could be could come up fairly soon. Like, this could come up Tuesday. This could literally happen on Tuesday when one class 3 guy is gone. We are short-staffed class 2s. We don't even have enough of those as it is. So I don't see how any class 2 can step up to class 3 when we're short-staffed. So this literally could happen next week. And I don't see how we can make this decision without parent input, without more data. Like, I'm in complete agreement with Natalie. The teacher buy-in, I don't see how we can have this discussion without talking to them. I don't know. I think it's a scary thing to propose this without more data.
Okay. Natalie, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, just 2 comments. So I think it would have been great to have Chief Sorrentino here for this conversation tonight. I feel like this is just being pushed through very quickly. We don't have an opportunity to ask him questions directly. And, Ms. Hayes mentioned, Ms. Tallarico brought up some other options. Ms. Hayes herself has brought up other options as far as badge swiping and things of other technology that we could be looking at. And we have just kind of passed over those and gone right to the gun solution. So I'm really disappointed in that.
I just want to make one comment about that. I mean, one of our goals at some time ago was to figure out how every school had an armed class 3 officer, right? And so I think the thing that more was trying to figure out what happens when there are gaps, right? So at some point, that was what the discussion was about what we agreed as a strategy. And that's not to take away from other strategies that to also figure out how to make the school secure. So I agree with you that we have to figure out other things, but I don't want to take what the original mission was and subtract from that.
We hadn't discussed the mission of having alternative armed people until last week.
That's right.
Meeting.
That's
We stopped talking about the other proposed solutions several months ago.
Irene.
I'll just add one thing real quick.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure everybody's understanding and clear where I'm coming from is, I was asked to look into this. I was asked to, in essence, kind of put together a plan for the gaps, which we have. In order for that plan to go in effect for the start of school, which I was absolutely under the impression we would want to try to have that be the case, we would have to approve some things this evening. It is but I will say this, we have not had that kind of coverage since the inception of the Class 3 program. I do not believe that we are an unsafe environment and have been an unsafe environment. I don't want to say, I don't believe that. But it's on the agenda tonight based on what I believe I was sort of tasked to do 2 weeks ago. Under note that there's, if the board chooses not that this is too quick or whatever it may be, then that is certainly the discretion of the board, and we can continue to work on a plan that the board is comfortable with. But, I wanted to come here this evening with something ready to go, because that's certainly the impression that I left with last meeting.
Right, so let me just ask a question here. So I just want to just kind of make sure we're kind of all in the right context here. So I'm assuming that you came with this plan because this is a plan that you recommend to have if we didn't want to have gaps in coverage.
Correct.
This is the plan that you recommend if we didn't want to have gaps in coverage.
Correct.
Okay. I don't want you to come up with a plan you didn't want to recommend.
No,
Okay.
but but at the same time, I do believe that this has been something that has kind of been put together quickly, and while I feel confident that we could pull it off, I do understand the reservations that individual members have. And I respect that. And I'm certainly not saying that if we need more time, that puts us in a dangerous situation. Because I don't believe that.
Okay, John had his hand up first.
I haven't raised my hand since I spoke.
Oh, I thought you wanted to, okay.
That was me.
It was, oh, it was you, sorry.
I'd like to just follow up on Natalie's discussion. Once again, we're in a situation where we don't have enough information and we're being pressed to make a decision. Uvalde, Parkland, armed police officers did not stop the killing of students, young people. Yet we're not asking the high school students to wear their IDs, a simple security measure. You were quoted in the Coaster, there's a new initiative from the state to identify students with possible
Threat assessment.
their assessment. I would rather see more of our resources put toward these assessments and toward door devices that keep people from pushing them in. I know that there have been many of those. And more class 3, class 2 officers rather than arming our security people. If you look at their job description, it's a mile long. We're paying them very little money. Even giving them $100 stipend, I'm not comfortable with them carrying a gun in school. Guns have not been proven to keep students safe. We have been safe up to this time. Are we playing with fire? I don't think so. We have security teams in place. I know that many of us submitted questions about security, how we can work with our teams and administration to make sure that our security in place already is tight or to tighten it further. So that just is my comment. We need to focus on the mental health of students and do more assessments, perhaps some door devices. I don't have enough information to be able to make a decision about this, the plan that you put in place. And it was a very high pressured situation 2 weeks ago that I was uncomfortable with.
Amy?
I just want to say two things. I want to say thank you to Jim for coming back with a plan that we asked you to formulate to get us answers on arming them in the last case scenario. I also want to say that in my opinion and my feeling, and this is my feeling, our security personnel in our buildings go through training on how to be security in our buildings. And they've had many years of training carrying a weapon throughout their careers. And in some cases, I think that their judgment in a school situation is better than a class 3 in some situations. Because I think that they know our students, they know our faculty, they know, that. So I just want to say, like, when we're saying that they're not getting training, I know there is, and it's more training is not a bad thing. But to say that they're not trained to possibly have to do it next week, in my opinion, is not how I feel. I feel that they've done their own training, how to be a security guard in a school. Mr. Pembleton goes every year. He brings it back. Am I right on this? He brings it back to his staff on training, on being a security guard in a school environment. And so when I think of security personnel hiring an outside agency that runs security at bars and restaurants or malls or different places like that versus our security that works in schools, I would be more in favor of having it be our security than I would having it be an outside agency.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Denise?
Yeah, perhaps if I could suggest that, being that there's way too many questions here this evening, that we postpone the vote. Even Jim said it. It is not going to put us at risk until some of these questions are answered. I think maybe we would be in better shape as a board to make that decision.
I can certainly invite Chief Sorrentino to come to our next meeting and have that conversation.
We can't hear you.
So I can invite Chief Sorrentino to the next meeting and we can have that conversation, sure.
Can we have
I
Mr.
think-
Pembleton
I
as well?
think-
maybe?
Yeah, I think if we were gonna make that, we probably would have to make that motion when we got time for that segment to vote, if somebody wanted to make that motion. I don't know if this is the time to make that motion.
It would have to be the person that's.
Well, remember, we have two things up this evening. We have the class 3
Right.
contract, which I would highly recommend we not
Yes. we have to-
table. I would say we should do that. And then the conversation about approving specific individuals
Correct.
of ours, then, if the board wish to table that, I think that's certainly up to the board.
Alex, you had your hand up?
I did just have a quick question, and I don't know if we've thought of this. So at the end of the spring, right after Uvalde, when we, did a lot of asking of the town to pay for our schools to be covered, and we got the town and the police department to chip in, and whether it was $20,000 or whatever it was, so that we had all 5 schools, okay? Because you did just say we've never had a time period when our schools have been fully covered, but we did for
Well,
about
for that
for
last part
about
of
2 weeks. or 3
prior
weeks.
to that. Yeah.
It was an expensive 3 weeks. But have we asked, I know the chief says he can't guarantee, but did we ask on that level? Like, if we postpone this, for example, I'm throwing this out there for the next session or something. Can we pay a lot of money to guarantee that the schools are covered like we did in May? Because we worked that out for 2 weeks.
May I answer that?
Sure. Yeah.
What, and I don't know the specifics of what the chief was able to work out
Mhm.
internally, but I believe that the police union in town
Mhm.
worked with the chief to dramatically reduce their off-duty coverage cost, and that's how that was covered. Those were off-duty officers who were basically working overtime to cover.
Sure.
And from what I understand, they did that within the structure of the class 3 rates, which are dramatically lower than what an off-duty officer would typically make for a function. I did ask if that was still
An option?
an option. And I was told that that was no longer an option, right? That was that for that time and that situation when it was very new after the Uvalde situation. And we did pay for that, like that we did pay for part of that. That was, we did incur half of that cost. So it wasn't that was free to the district. But at this point, that's not an option.
Just because this was brought up, so right now you feel pretty very confident that we will have the town will provide the class 3 officers for each one of the schools to start school, right?
Correct.
And do you have an idea of or a perception of how likely is if somebody was to miss a day or 2 here, how easily would it be for the department to provide a backup? Because that's our number 1, and number 2 is a class 3 or class 2 officer. Do you have an idea from him? How would that occur?
I mean, I think. Chief definitely said that would be the next layer that he would go to cover it. I can't speak to
So you don't
the
know-
likely.
you don't know the likelihood of.
No, I mean, I don't think he would have offered it if it wasn't if it wasn't a possibility,
Okay.
but I can't say exactly what that would be for certain.
I have a point of inquiry.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think this is called a point of inquiry. Then this is what I was speaking to before when we table a discussion for the work session. So we missed out on presenting some of this information, which probably should have been half an hour ago. And then we would have had a public discussion, which then could have given us some answers or some questions. So now we have to wait, and then the public is going to ask some questions, and there's even some more chatter than there has been in months on our Zoom.
Which is a problem because that shouldn't influence.
And then,
the
no,
Discussion.
but we would have had that half an hour ago if we'd had that. So
disagree
I
with
don't think it's fair that we and we're not supposed to talk after the public comment. So we were supposed to, I don't know, I guess my point of inquiry is, are we going to have any kind of more casual discussion after the public makes their first public comment? Because we have just kind of wasted a public comment by not having this discussed.
Yeah,
in the-
before we get to the actual vote, we can have a comment on that topic. You can have a comment and have a discussion on that topic. Anytime before a vote, we can have a discussion on that topic. Well, in this context, we.
So I
in this-
think when
in
we,
this
I think when we
context.
talk about, when 11.2 actually comes up, there would be more
Yes,
discussion.
whatever,
about that.
11.2,
Okay.
could be more discussion. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay, sure. Okay, okay, move on to the, thank you, Jim, and thanks, Tina, for the work on this. School business administrators report.
The only other two items I'd like to bring up are, we talked about the curtain wall, and we talked about the HVAC project. I spoke to architects today. In 3 weeks, they are going to have the facilities audit complete for all of the rest of our locations. And we are waiting on the wetlands and final engineer report for this building. So by the end of September, we should have information to discuss.
Okay, great, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Are we gonna do that presentation in planning and construction meeting, or are we doing it full board one time?
Let me know.
I mean, you want to say you're the planning construction?
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter either way. I'm just, so I prepare myself if I need to prepare in a different meeting, or do we want to do that in front of the full?
Well, my preference would be that you all talk about it first, and then when she talks about it, when Tina talks about it, that you have perspective on it, right? So that way you have time to let it
I was gonna
marinate.
have the architect come in.
Yeah.
But I was gonna have the architects speak to the whole board.
Good.
So you just have to let me know how you want to do.
Okay, well, why don't you, I'm perfectly comfortable with,
Either way,
and
yeah.
I'm assuming this board would be also comfortable with.
Well,
you
I
as a
think we
control-
need to find out, because Ms. Coleman just said that's good, but I don't know if she meant that's good to the architect coming into
The
the full
architect.
board, or to the
Yes.
just, so that's what I'm
I'd like
saying.
to hear, I'm not on the building and planning, but I'd like to hear the architect. So that's why I said full board, but I might be alone.
What would you suggest, Amy?
I mean, I feel like it's a bit, I feel like it's a big, the full facilities plan.
Facilities audit, show what the audit is.
Yeah, I think it should be done in committee with, I think there's a lot to cover, and I think it would be a long, I think committee, and then maybe bring it back to
And
the
then
full board,
committee
and then if
reports
there's
back?
more, and
I'll
if there's
defer
more
to you
questions.
since you've been on that committee.
I just wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing.
So what do we want to do?
Committee.
One For which?
I move that you hold it into committee.
Second?
So for both.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Can I get a,
All in
we
favor?
we can do it all in favor. You can do all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, great.
So,
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Amy, for bringing that up.
thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Schubert? No? Okay. We're gonna go to public comment. The following are a series of motions to be read by the committee chairpersons. All motions have been discussed at a recent public work session. Some motions have been approved at a public work session, and the minutes for the approved items are posted on the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session will be for public comment on agenda items only. The second will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anybody from the public like to make a comment on any agenda item at this time? Come on up. I think if you could just, nice to meet you. I think if you just state your name and address, that'd be great.
Yes, hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, that only.
Doesn't work.
That only
I have a
broadcasts,
loud voice, it's okay.
it only broadcasts to the Zoom session. So you have to use the mic.
Okay.
It just doesn't amplify.
Allison Oskan, High Ridge Road, Wayside. I wonder what I'm going to talk about today, given the last hour discussion. That's what I wanted to talk about. So full disclosure, I fully understand and acknowledge that this discussion is not about guns in schools, period. Obviously, that discussion had happened in some form years ago. It was before I was part of the district. Being relatively new, I have 2 young children, one entering kindergarten and one entering 2nd grade. So I was not a part of that discussion whenever it happened. Wasn't really aware of it until now. I was on the last meeting, somehow hung in there till 11:30 PM. I did hear it. I was pretty stunned by the whole discussion. I think even more stunned that it came to a vote, or was hoping to come to a vote today. Like a few members of the board said, I agree that there are a lot of maybes, probablys, possiblies. I didn't hear any evidence. I didn't hear any data. I have some, although it printed out very microscopically small. I can share the link after if you're interested. I did post it on Ms. Hayes' post that she made on Facebook earlier soliciting input. So I'm just going to read a portion of it. This was posted on 1010 Wins very recently because I know that this is being discussed across school boards. This is specific to New Jersey. Here's the portion. So hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent on school hardening measures like hiring armed security guards since the Columbine massacre in 1999. But studies have repeatedly shown these steps to be ineffective at preventing gun violence. A 2019 study from the University of Toledo and Ball State University, which they do link to in this article, found that visible security was effective at alleviating parents' fears, although not mine, but failed to protect children from shootings. 20 years after Columbine, more than 226,000 children at 223 schools had been exposed to gun violence. At least 143 people were killed in these shootings and 294 more were injured. The study concluded that the ideal method for eliminating school firearm violence by youths is to prevent them from ever gaining access to firearms. One of the problems with relying on armed adults to combat active shooters in schools is the speed at which most school shootings are carried out, according to the study. The paper uses the January 2018 school shooting at Marshall County High School in Benton, Kentucky as an example. A 15-year-old boy armed with a semi-automatic pistol killed 2 people and wounded 14 in the span of 10 seconds. Armed guards would have needed to be physically present to even have a chance at reducing the casualties, and even then they'd be firing into a room crowded with children. While armed security or police officers at schools don't offer meaningful protection against school shootings, they do increase the rate of suspensions, expulsions, police referrals, and student arrests, according to a 2021 study from Brown University, also linked in this article, which also found armed adults in schools do not reduce gun violence. The same study found school officers disproportionately targeted Black students, especially Black boys, for these punishments. Students with disabilities were also disproportionately targeted. These studies are not unique. Time, Pointer, and Education Next aggregated other studies that unanimously find school safety officers fail to prevent gun violence, but increase the criminalization of students. I don't think any of us want that. I understand again that this is a tough issue, but I would encourage you to not vote on it tonight and instead to look at the evidence and the data. And I'm happy to share it again. I posted it, but I can share it widely.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comments. Anybody else in the audience like to make a comment at this time? No? Okay. Ms. Conway, anybody remotely like to make a comment?
Yes, President Weinstein. Mr. Mike Riley, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. The fact that we're having this discussion, I mean, I honestly cannot get over where we are at this point. I know for a fact that I was never, this topic never came up when I was back in Kane and, you know, going for my teacher certificate. So it just blows my mind that this is a major topic at this point and just saddens me in many ways. I appreciate the fact that you are still having this discussion, however. We brought this up last year, the TOEA, and our first line of defense and our first complaint was that we need to make sure that this never even gets into the building to become an issue. That meaning we need to be sure that every door on every building locks as soon as it is shut. We need to make sure that nothing can blow these doors open. We need to make sure our windows are appropriately locked and able to open if they need to or are able to. I honestly believe that the students need to wear name tags and be responsible so we can just see just by what's hanging around them that they are one of our students and that they are supposed to be here. There's a number of different things that we can still do. I don't want to speak to the idea of armed guards because, in all honesty, I don't have any information about it, and I don't like to speak to topics that I don't know about. I'm not going to theorize. I can absolutely tell you that if we don't have something in place, I know our staff, and I know that if violence enters our building, I know our staff, the statistics of teachers being harmed is going to be very, very high. So we have to do everything we possibly can to make sure that this topic is taken very seriously and it's not rushed. We, the TOEA, are happy to sit down and talk about this in every way possible. We want the safest schools we can possibly have. This has been an issue. School safety has been an issue at the high school. It has been an issue at the intermediate school. We don't want it. Ocean Township is an outstanding district. I moved here because of it, and I don't want to let it go. So thank you for having this discussion. Thank you for not rushing into any of it. Whatever I can do personally as the president of the TOEA, I am happy to do it. A member of our society, of our community, a taxpayer, happy to sit down with whoever, we can sit down with. Whatever it takes to get this done correctly, I am 100% behind. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Mr. Riley. Anybody next, Ms. Conrad, that would like to make a comment?
Yes, President Weinstein, we have two more commenters. Next would be Allison Connolly. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hear you fine.
Excellent. So to piggyback a little bit off of what Mr. Riley just said, do I have to introduce myself? Allison Connolly. I live in Wall Township and I work in Ocean. To piggyback off what Mike said, safety has to come first. And I think Dr. Stefankowitz was the one who said it, that if we get to the point that we're relying on any sort of armed security, it's gone too far already. And I have the ability to talk about other districts because my sons are in a different district. And also I visit other districts in my employment outside of ours. And I have not yet been to one that hasn't required my driver's license to go through a machine to make sure that I am even allowed to step foot into a school. And the last time I checked, I don't think that we do that process here, and it's a very simple one. I wish that we would invest in things like that. I do think that just a simple act of wearing IDs and needing IDs, I know the kids don't like it, it's not cool, it ruins their outfits, but it's such a simple security feature for us to be doing. I think that there's a lot of steps that we could be taking before having this conversation that we really need to be reinforcing. And with the start of the school year, what a wonderful opportunity for people to sort of reinforce with their teachers and staff the things that we can be doing to enhance security. But with that said, I have a different perspective simply because in January of 2018, I brought armed security to Wall as board president. It was something that we made the decision to do in January of 2018. And I did the research. And we had an option of choosing special threes or of arming our existing security. And similar to Ocean, our entire security staff was made up of retired police officers. And so we're talking about men and women who concealed carried outside of the job anyway, who wear their gun like a pair of underwear, and we're usually more comfortable with it on than off, who go through rigorous training to have it, but who are also very familiar to our students. As an equity coach and in the capacity of that, I will tell you that the research indicates that officers in uniform automatically exacerbate a situation and actually elevate it, and are often problematic in school settings for a variety of different reasons, especially if you're dealing with school populations who have been taught not to trust police officers. But if you look at our security, who a lot of the kids see as, friendly and loving, it's a different scenario, an entirely different way. We do conceal carry in Wall. All of our officers have it concealed. And that's just how it works. And it has worked for us since 2018 without issue. But what I will go back to is saying that if any of those people ever had to draw their weapon, Wall has failed immensely because all of the other security should have been able to stop people from getting in. But it's a conversation that I think is worth unpacking. I don't think the board can vote on it until they feel comfortable doing so. But I think Ms. McGovern made some really valid points in her statements. And I too am happy to help in any way because I have lived this and I have dossiers on it. And I know what happens. So just thank you for the conversation that you're having and for considering us when you do it.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Ms. Conway, anybody else like to make a comment?
Yes, President Weinstein, our last commenter is Ms. Amy Sears. Please go ahead.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Hear you great.
Okay, good. I have a lot of background noise and I apologize for that. So I think that actually what Ms. Connolly had just discussed actually covers a lot of the points. And I would just like to add that I do log into the board meetings. It's not, super consistent, but as somebody who's I would say somewhat well-informed as to what's going on in the schools, I was surprised that this discussion had moved so expeditiously to this point where I appreciate a lot of the board members are saying, let's put the brake on this. And I really want to emphasize, I feel very strongly, we need to put the brake on this. We need a lot more community input. I don't think that enough parents are really aware that this discussion is being had. I want to say that every time that there's a school shooting in the news and it's heartbreaking, I tend to research. That's my go-to thing. That's just what I do. Every time I have looked into this particular topic, I am confronted with just loads of hard data coming from really respected science publications and publication people writing in the field of public health. Every time this topic comes up, the data shows that having armed security guards in the schools either have zero positive impact or a negative impact. And in some cases, they're saying that it increases aggression. So, I mean, I'm not anti-gun. I've used them myself, but I really think that this is a discussion that we have to have with a lot more community engagement, a lot more information from the police department of how it would be executed, and a lot more information or a lot more input from the teachers and the parents. And especially also the guards themselves, the people who would be doing it, because I missed part of the discussion, but it sounds like there's a possibility that we would be talking about having the security guards that are greeting us at the front doors, who are currently unarmed, having them armed, or hiring outside security. Am I right on that? Is my understanding correct on that?
I'm sorry, say that last part again, when you just,
Hiring outside security.
that we were going to look into that as well, right?
Right. So we're looking at those two options. So I think from a process standpoint, where does this get us? Tonight's discussion, where does this bring us? And how do we plan to get more parental teacher input from the police and the community in general? How do we get people engaged in this conversation? This is not something that should be pushed through quickly.
Okay. Did you have more you wanted to say on this Sears, or?
No, I mean, I guess that's my question to you guys is what are the next steps in this conversation?
Well, I think right now we're going to take your comment, all right, and then we're going to discuss it when we get to that part of the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody next, Ms. Conway?
Yes, President Weinstein, one more commenter, Ms. Lori Ann Walgren. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to add my voice to this. I would reiterate what has been said by several people prior to me, that deterrence is key in situations like this. It is far more advantageous if we can prevent someone with ill intent from ever getting into our buildings. And there are some relatively simple things that we can do. And many of us in Wanamassa School, where I teach, came up with some ideas. We brainstormed at the end of last year, and we shared those ideas. And it is something that haunts every one of us who works in schools, who has children, who loves children. We must do everything that we can, start with the simplest measures, which in some cases are stunningly simple, to prevent someone with a gun or any kind of a weapon from getting into our buildings during the day and during the night. And as a member of TOEA, and as a staff member, and as someone who has worked in this district and loves this district and the children and the families for so many years, I also am more than willing and more than happy to add my thoughts, my research, my input, my insights, and work with everyone else to find solutions that will help keep everyone safe. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Conway, anybody else?
No, President Weinstein, there are no further commenters.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody, for the comments that you made. We'll address it later on in our discussion. Approval of minutes. Ms. Gilman,
Yes, move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with Board of Education bylaw 0168, recording of board meetings from our work meeting and executive session minutes, August 16th, 2022.
anybody have anything that they'd like to say about any of the minutes? Any items? On the minutes, yeah.
Yeah, just as a new member, it's not policy to keep record of votes or anything like that for the minutes or to publish those.
We do keep votes on those particular items, yes.
So I guess more to clarify, so like when there's a roll call vote, we're not listing out who voted for what, we're just tallying the total votes, it seems like in the minutes, or did I read them wrong?
No, I think we're supposed to be putting who voted.
For minutes, what we say is all in favor.
Yes, are you talking about?
So when I read it this week, it said, motion carries 8-0, not Mr. McCarthy voted in favor or against said motion. And that's my question is like in terms of policy. So we're not listing who's voting in a certain way on our minutes.
For minutes, we all say all in favor. All opposed.
I think he's talking about.
No, he's talking about
He's talking about in regular votes, though, we do say,
For referendum, when we go through the resolutions, yes.
But not
But for
for
minutes.
Not for
we
minutes.
don't
Right,
do
in the
that.
minutes, we're not publishing, right, so to clarify my question, I'm saying we're not publishing in the minutes who's voting for what by name. And that's always been board
only for the
policy.
minutes, we don't do that. For other things, we do say who voted.
No, he's,
What was
Go
he
ahead.
saying?
I think you're missing what he's saying. Maybe not vote by what you.
So where else are we
said.
publishing, then, based on what you're saying, where else are we publishing that?
If I vote 6.2 and I say, and I vote no.
Oh, that'll be listed.
And
in the
Denise says
minutes.
yes. So it says
Voting no.
Denise says yes, Amy says no.
Yes.
For each item, yeah.
You have to go to that particular item.
And
that we
then
took a
we'll
vote
be,
on.
We're not doing block voting for the rest of them. We only, in the minutes, we say all in favor to approve the minutes,
Just
and they say yes or no.
Right.
If somebody says
No,
I
no.
recuse, that is taken down,
But if
because
it's,
I'm not there.
if it's unanimous, you don't list.
If
all
it's
the
Correct,
unanimous,
if
we
it's
don't-
unanimous, it's 8-0.
right.
Correct.
So if it's 8-0.
So if there's-
already listed who's attending, so then it's assumed that the.
If
people-
we
Right.
vote for something, it's 7-2, we list the two people that voted
Right.
against, right?
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
all right, understood, thank you.
I mean, did you not see something that was incorrect?
I guess because they were unanimous votes,
Right.
that's why I was
That's
not
exactly
seeing that, but that's why I was asking, is
Right.
because but I didn't see at the end whether or not the one vote that was, I think, 6-2, whether that was listed by name or not.
So just to that point, Ms. Truba, on the minutes, it does say the motion carried 6-0. Mrs. Gilman and Mrs. Tortorella voted no, so that should say 6-2.
Okay, I didn't realize. Okay.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yep.
Any other things about the minutes? I think we could just do an all in favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain, thank you. And Ms. Talarico's absent.
Financial management, Natalie.
Okay, we have 14 items for approval this evening. 6.1. Move to approve the following resolution, which certifies that budget balances at the end of July 2022 were adequate to pay all remaining obligations of the 22-23 school year, and that account groupings required by the state have adequate balances. The board is also certifying that the independent reports of the treasurer and the business officer in agreement as per the below and attached. 6.2, move for approval of the attached resolution dating July 2022, covering appropriation transfers in the 22-23 General Fund 10. Said transfer shall result in no change in the total original appropriations as per the attached. 6.3, move for the approval of the following paid items as per the attached, totaling $6,174,567.77. 6.4, move to approve the use of facilities as per the attached memo dated August 30th, 2022. 6.5, move to approve the following security drills for the month of July 2022. 6.6, move to accept the donation of $2,500 from Camp David, the Township of Ocean School District. The funds will be used toward the esports program at the high school to offset the cost of technology purchases. 6.7, move to accept the award of $750 for the steam tank project through the Relax ES on behalf of the New Jersey Audubon, New Jersey School Boards Association, and the PSE&G Foundation, per the attached letter dated July 12, 2022. Move to approve the contract, 6.8. Move to approve the contract with Summit Speech School to provide itinerant teacher of the deaf services for the 22-23 school year at a rate of $195 per hour. 6.9, move to approve the resolution opposing the proposed increases to the School Employees Health Benefits Program, SCHBP, as per the below. 6.10, move to approve the renewal of cooperative pricing agreements for 2022-23 school year with the following agencies: Buy Board, Keystone Purchasing Network, and National Commodities. 6.11, move to approve the contract with Brett Denovi and Associates LLC for behavior and educational consulting services for the student at a rate of $55 per hour for a clinical associate and $130 per hour for a behavior consultant for the 22-23 school year in accordance with the attached proposal. 6.12, move to approve the award of a contract to Gallagher Benefit Services to provide pharmacy benefits management services through December 31st, 2023 at no cost to the district. 6.13, move to approve the agreement with Monmouth County Vocational School District to accept Township of Ocean students into the following programs for the 22-23 school year as listed below. And 6.14, move to approve a contract with Maxim Healthcare Services, Inc. to provide nursing services for students at the rate of $54 per hour for an RN and/or LPN for the 22-23 school year in accordance with the attached proposal. May I have a second?
Second. Any discussion on any of these topics, Ms. Truba, that you want to have? Anybody have any points of discussion you'd like to have on this? Okay, great. I think we can do a roll on it.
Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes to all but recuse from 6.9.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes to all.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes to all.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Malamas.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes to all.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes. Great. Ms. Gilman, could you do instruction, education, and student
Certainly,
activities?
there are 13 items for our consideration. 7.1, move to approve an affiliation agreement for the period of September 1st, 2022 through June 21st, 2023 for social work internships from Monmouth University. The agreement would allow 2 students enrolled at the university social work program to participate in clinical experiences conducted within our schools. Students would not be compensated for their time. Names of the students participating and date range for the internship period will be determined at a later date. 7.2, move to approve contracting Brett Denovi and Associates provide behavioral education consultation for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 to the following. One Township of Ocean Intermediate student, 30 hours at home, mornings to assist student on the bus and school at a rate of $130 per hour, $3,900 for the year. And 2, parent consultation for the student, 20 hours at a rate of $130 per hour for a total of $2,600 for the year. 7.3, move to approve contracting Summit Speech School to provide itinerant teacher of the deaf services for 2022-2023 school year at a rate of $195 per hour for 2 students listed below, Ocean Township Elementary for 2 sessions and 1 student at Township of Ocean Intermediate School for 1 consult per month. 7.4, move to approve contracting the State of New Jersey Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired to provide educational service to 1 elementary school student and 1 high school student during the 22-23 school year. Services will begin September 1st, 2022 and continue through June 30th, 2023 at a rate of $2,200 per student for the year. 7.5, move to approve cancellation to out-of-district public tuition for 22-23 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 17th, 2022. 7.6, move to approve the request of a Grand Canyon University student to fulfill their clinical practice requirements in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 25th, 2022. 7.7, move to approve the district's curriculum for the 2022-23 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated July 27, 2022. Copies of the curriculum are attached. 7.8, move to approve the request of a Monmouth University student to fulfill their internship hours in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 25th. 7.9, move to approve the acceptance of the following non-resident students to attend Township of Ocean School District for 22-23 school year on a tuition basis as listed below. 7.10, move to approve using Maxim Healthcare to provide nursing services to Township of Ocean Elementary School student in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 29, 2022. 7.11, move to approve out-of-district private tuition for the 22-23 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 19th, 2022. 7.12, move to continue for 2022-23 school year the participation of Ocean Township and Wayside Elementary Schools in the data-driven instruction coaching model project in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 18th, 2022, and participation letter dated August 1st, 2022. The DDICM project is an extension of New Jersey Tiered System of Supports Early Reading Grant and is in partnership with the Rutgers University Graduate School of Education. And 7.13, move to approve the attached memorandum dated August 25th, 2022, staff professional development activities in accordance with District Policy 6471 and NJAC 6A:23A-7. The attendance at said activities is fiscally prudent and will promote the delivery of instruction and/or further the efficient operation of the district. Reimbursement for travel and related expenses shall be according to the Department of the Treasury guidelines in NJOMB Circular 06-02 and A-87. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Parlomas.
Any points of discussion by anybody for this? Sure, Ms. Hayes.
Just 7:13, I forgot to ask in the work session, the Wilson training items in there for PD, those are new teachers getting Wilson trained? Is that what that is?
No.
In district meeting regarding our.
And it's all day? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so, okay, thank you.
Yes, now.
I had a question on the same item. I didn't catch it earlier. On page 3, the PD going to Nashville, Tennessee. I was just curious in general, because that fee is, I'm assuming, just for the conference.
That's the registration fee.
So travel would come later? or-
No, the travel and the hotel and all that, that's part of that's part of the administrator's contract. That they get a certain amount of professional development per year. So it's when it's within the contract, it's already been approved, that contract has already been approved by the board. So the board doesn't have to reapprove those specific amounts, just the registration fee. Of course, all of that is subject to the limitations of, how much can be spent on a hotel, how much can be spent on food and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anybody else have any, John?
So just in response to 7.7, just to clarify how I'm going to vote. I have brought this discussion up multiple times for a few months now. I believe I'm kind of standing alone on this. I had asked for potential to opt in to the PE, the sexual education and personal growth curriculum for the elementary schools in particular, because I do believe that the state has handed these things down in a very heavy-handed way, and I do not agree with them. I don't believe that I'm going to have much support in that from other members of the board. I will still be voting against the curriculum because I cannot vote against two particular learning standards that I disagree with. That vote does not demonstrate a lack of belief in our administration. I would like to commend our administration for the way that they have sort of set us up for success as a district in preventing what could have been somewhat of a controversial issue from becoming one. So I do appreciate that. And it is not a demonstration of a lack of belief in our staff. But as a policy-making board, I do not believe that it is acceptable based on my belief system that we should be approving these things. And if the opposite was happening and someone was trying to teach something in our school that was more religious based, I would oppose that as well, just so that is clear. So I do believe that there are certain conversations that should be being had at the kitchen table and not in the classroom. And this, I believe, is breaching that. And from a policy perspective, I will not support that, but I just want to make my position clear.
Well, thanks. Anybody else have any comments? Nope. Okay, Ms. Struble.
Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Saves,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes, to all but 7.7.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Prolamus,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes to all, except I recuse myself from 7.1 and 7.8. Okay, personnel, Ms. Parlamas.
Yes, Mr. Weinstein, just to be clear, are we tabling 8.16?
I think we have to make a motion.
Yes, correct, but I just want to make sure that I am making that motion.
Do you want to make a motion for that?
Yes, I will.
And I
second the motion.
Okay, so hold on.
She has to make it.
There's a motion to be brought to the
First of all-
floor as
first of all-
part.
First of all, I
I
think,
think we should go through the whole
just
thing.
made
You want me to go through?
The motion 8.16
Then you say you
I
want
think
to-
needs to be
you
brought
wanna-
to the floor
I think-
before it
I think what
can
you
be
can do is
tabled.
you can say, I'm trying to bring these ahead.
Exactly.
And then you want to make them, and then after we have a second, then you could say we want to make a motion to table 8.16.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, that's how you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
No, I think that's exactly how he
So you
said
have
it.
to do
I
it.
would
I think
skip
you have to introduce. it
You have to
first.
introduce them all, and then you
Okay.
have to, right?
Motion to table is a secondary motion.
Correct.
okay, 8.1, move to approve the following resignations as listed below. 8.2, move to approve the revisions to the following resignation dates as listed below. 8.3, move to approve the retirement of Huber Flores, custodian 1 at the high school. 8.4, move to approve for the 2022-23 school year, the following staff members as teachers for after-school detention at the intermediate school as listed below. 8.5, move to approve the following, I'm sorry, I'm going to state that one again. Move to approve Jane D'Ambrosio for the 2022-23 school year as a substitute teacher for after-school detention at the intermediate school. 8.6, move to approve employees to be charged off the ESSER 2 grant for hourly work for summer programs during the 22 summer months as listed below. 8.7, move to approve Daryl Ann Imparato, an instructional assistant to Shadow High School student for cheerleading. 8.8, move to approve hiring the following as playground aides and playground aid assistants as listed below. 8.9, move to approve a revision to the following job description as listed below. 8.10, move to approve the request of Timothy Patterson, social studies teacher at the high school, to take an unpaid family leave of absence as listed below. 8.11, move to approve an unpaid leave of absence with the continuation of benefits for Romy Georgianow, instructional assistant at the intermediate school for the period of September 1st through November 25th, 2022. 8.12, move to approve an unpaid family leave of absence without the continuation of benefits for Romy Georgianow, instructional assistant at the intermediate school for the period of November 26th through January 31st, 2023. 8.13, move to approve the following teachers to work the Spartan Leading the Way after-school program as listed below. 8.14, move to approve the following substitute bus drivers and substitute transportation aides as listed below. 8.15, move to approve substitute teachers as listed below. 8.17, move to approve that revised contracts be issued for the following as listed below. 8.18, move to approve that contracts be issued to the following as listed below. Do I have a second?
Second.
You have to,
So do I hear any discussion about this?
do we have to bring 8.16 to the floor before we can table it?
It's been brought to the floor. It was just seconded.
You just seconded. As soon as we seconded, now it's.
Sorry, I didn't hear 8.16. I thought
Soon
that-
soon as a second, right? And I also just want to say, I'll make a comment about
Okay.
it, right? 8.9 is also joined with that as well. So
Okay.
if we're gonna move,
Okay.
if we're gonna move one, we would want to move the other.
All right, so then.
So you can make a motion if you like
Right,
to.
I'd like to make a motion to table 8.9 and 8.16. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so first, I think what we should do is, we should vote on that motion. And then we should vote on all the others. Okay? 'Cause First of all, before we do that, we can have a discussion about that motion. Anybody have a discussion about that? John?
Okay, so if we're now going to potentially start school next week without this, because we don't feel as a board that this is the right thing to do. I mean, are we planning to come up with a solution here to have a backup then? Because I think that a lot of people, and I understand and respect that there's a lot of emotion involved in this, and this should be a deliberate decision. But the way this started was that this was a discussion of coverage, and security should be all the things that were brought up by people tonight, right? It should be everything that we can do. None of us want to go to bed at night and wonder, God forbid anything like this happened in one of our schools, if we could have done more. Never. And so the initial discussion was we had a lack of ability to have class 3 officers to have more than 5 in the schools. What would be the backup plan? And we didn't have one. And so we gave an opportunity to the board, to the administration to find one, and they did, right? They did find a backup plan for us, so there would be redundancy in our security. There was never a question of should we even pursue having enough class 3 officers. That was always a discussion that was sort of accepted from my understanding, and that we were finding a backup plan. So if we're going to now send our children into school next week and not have a backup plan, are we as a group going to try to come up with something tonight that we can actually do? Because we have a plan here that I hope also that we don't need to use. I can't say that. I personally, if I'm speaking freely, I would probably prefer that security guards who know the layout of the school and who know the students do carry. But my compromise was that we would try to make it as much class 3 officers as possible. And now I fear that we're going to send these kids to school next week without having an armed officer in every one of the schools, which was a prerequisite thing that was accepted by all of us, that we would shoot for that we would hope to have that. So, I mean, are we gonna pay, can we, if we're gonna agree to this, can we pay overtime to police officers to work in the schools in an absence? Is that gonna be a proposed solution to this not being approved tonight? That's kind of a question I'm putting forward here, if we're deciding to postpone this discussion, which I'm not saying is the wrong thing to do.
Isn't that what I asked though? Like about Same
Yeah.
thing.
You were
That's why
asking
we
me
did
to
it in
have the
May.
same plan that we had at the end of the school year last year, and the answer to that is no, that we can't get that at the same rate. So then my response is, okay, if we can't get it at the same rate, are we
Whatever rate.
as a board prepared to pay whatever the rate is, so that if there is a class 3 officer who is absent and a class 2 officer who is absent, we can pay an Ocean Township police officer their overtime rate to be present at the school in the absence of that? Because I mean, looking at what happened at the Italian American Festival, I believe that they had like 10 plus overtime officers that were on for that. I'm sure that there are plenty of officers who want to fill those jobs. But then now I worry, overtimes in certain districts can be filled by officers from other districts. And now we're opening this up to another potential question, right? And we can go down these rabbit holes. And I'm scared that if we table this, that we're pushing away a good proposed solution for nothing.
Miss Barlam, sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with one little thing that you said, and that was that we, disagree with having the plan that we have on our agenda tonight, because I don't necessarily disagree. I was not at the last meeting, and I would like to hear a little bit more information. And from what I heard from the board, I only made that suggestion because it just seemed like I wasn't the only one. I'm not opposed to what you just suggested. Maybe we do need to hire someone or just to have a third option in place. Maybe that means hiring a police officer just in case. And it may just be for, 2 weeks. It might be for 4 weeks, but at least we have that option filled.
Before I say anything, does anybody have anything you want to say? Miss,
How many, Dr. Spankovich, you said Chief Sorrentino is extremely confident that there will be 5 class 3s in place for Tuesday. Where was his confidence level on class, like how many class 2s? Is there one sub of a class 2? Is
I
it
don't
10?
know that. I don't know that
he said
answer.
what? He said there was no definitive thing on that.
But those are people currently employed by OTPD, right?
Correct. But they're typically seasonal. So,
Yeah.
they would have to authorize that.
I agree with Mrs. Parlamas. I don't know that it's, we don't know that we're saying no to this. I think, at least speaking for myself, I need more information because this feels really, really jammed through.
Yeah, just on that point, as far as, so I was talking with Jim on the side just quickly. I'm trying to understand how do we create a place where if we decided that we want to have more information, what that information would be, right? So I'm not saying that, but we should really kind of think about that. Like, what do we want? to
Well, I
know what
gave
makes
several
sense.
suggestions, one being research. Mrs. Oskian shared something. A friend of mine texted me an article while we were sitting here. Mrs. Sears has sites. And in addition to that, we asked for Chief Sorrentino to be here. So
Okay, I just want to ask a question, and I want to be clear, because I think some of the conversation that some people have brought up, unless I did not grasp it correctly, seems to be discussing the concept of just guns in schools in general, which is a decision that has been made by the board years ago that we are planning to continue. The concept of an armed guard in our school is not a new one. We've had them for years. I think the only thing that was, up obviously for discussion was the backup plan of having our people cover if it was not, the backup of the backup, right? So I just want to make sure that we're still in that place in terms of being, and obviously the contract for class 3s is coming up. So I guess that how the board votes will answer that question, I suppose, but
yeah, I don't think anyone has.
okay, I mean, because I just
voted for class.
understood. I guess what I'm saying is just some of the comments made, I think were more
Internal.
broad about the concept of guns in school in general. And some of the research being talked about is about guns in school in general. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment about this. So one comment is, so I want to be careful how to say this because I don't want to put words in your mouth. But as far as us having coverage, is this what you would recommend as the way to have coverage? Like that's the part I think is kind of being mixed up in this scenario is if we all think coverage is important, I'm trying to understand what the recommendation
question
I'll-
is, that coverage is not clear to me. I'm not clear in my mind of what our security officers are being trained to do. Whether I approve of guns in school or not is a moot point. But if you're just talking about coverage, I don't have enough information about those officers listed here for a stipend to carry a gun. It's just not clear enough to me of what they're going to be doing, how they're trained, how often they're going to, where they're going to store their guns, how they're going to be notified. We talked about it briefly, just not prepared to vote on that tonight. Not going to be forced into voting for it if I don't have the information that I feel comfortable with.
So I'm just saying, there's two parts now, right? One part is when we tasked Jim and Tina and the team to come up with the solution for coverage, right? That's one. And the other is.
I didn't, but go ahead.
Right, well, as a board, we voted on that, to say we were doing that. And then as a second, we're kind of saying to ourselves, the discussion has been that other than having a police officer from the Ocean Township Police Department, do we want that as a backup? Those are really the two questions.
Where did that come from?
John just,
What?
didn't John just say that?
I think,
Yeah, but we didn't make a motion that we should get somebody from the Ocean Township Police Department until we have Chief Sorrentino here and see if that's even viable. He doesn't have spare officers. We've heard that numerous times.
no, but in our current situation right now, we already have in place the fact that we want to have 5.
We have them.
Right, so.
That's not part of the discussion. You're the one who's trying to separate these two. Class 3 officers, we didn't even vote on that contract yet. This is a completely different thing. The stipend for our security. It's a completely different item. That's the item that we have tabled.
No, it's not, because the stipend is specifically connected to the fact that we will use these individuals to be armed in our schools. That's the.
Right, but that has nothing to do with the Class 3 officers contract. That's a whole other, am I right?
I don't believe so, but.
That's a whole other,
Confusing
that's
me.
an item listed under
The discussion on the table, the discussion on the floor right now
is
coverage,
8.16
is
stipend.
coverage for what has already been determined as acceptable, that we would have 5 armed officers in every school, and that there will be a need for these individuals to take time off and to be sick and to be injured. And what will we do in that case? Because we don't have enough Class 3 officers. And so last week, we don't. Right. And so if we have 5 and 1 is sick, we now have 4 and we have 5 schools in the district. And so there is a school that will be absent an officer, that we will not have coverage that entire time. And that was already a decision that was made. And so now, the board voted in a majority to direct the administration to try to find a solution for a lack of coverage. And they found not 1, but 2. And this is the tertiary solution to ensure that our schools have an armed officer present at all times as a backup to a backup. And what is being brought up tonight is a lot of discussions about whether guns should be there in general, which I thought was a foregone conclusion that we all agreed to. And so what I'm saying is if we are going to stop, not have a backup to a backup, what are we going to do to prevent there to be coverage should one of these officers be out? And then we don't have a Class 2 to back them up.
I don't think we have an answer to that right now. We need more information. And if you look at 8.16, move to approve paying $100 stipend, that's what we're voting on. That.
I just clarified what the question was on the floor, but so.
I'm trying to think outside the box here, because I'm actually agreeing with John on this, and I have told him that he would have my support in wanting 100% coverage. That is, if that's what we're talking about right now, this is my proposal. Why don't we literally call the chief tonight? Why can't we do that? Why can't we say, What is your overtime bank? What does your union say? The reason why 10 cops worked the Italian festival is because that's an Italian festival. How many cops would come if on a random Thursday we are short? What is it gonna take? Is it $600 a day? Is it $400 a day? I don't think like we have those answers. I mean, some of us on this board probably have his phone number. Plus, there's like 20 local dads and moms who have kids in this district who are Ocean Township police officers. Have we asked any of them, like, can they be in a pool if we're short? Like,
It's just to come into school with a gun.
I don't think that's what I'm asking. I'm asking if they would be in the pool
Just for them to serve in
for,
a duty status.
of course,
Jim, would you like
don't be
to-
ridiculous. That's not what I'm
address this
asking.
at all? I know, wait, I'm just gonna get Jim to address that one point.
Last week, the board asked us to put together a plan that would provide coverage if the class 3 officers would not be available. I believe what I'm coming forth with today is what I believe is the best option for that. As I said earlier, I completely understand if the board needs more time to think about it, or, you know, I did what I was asked to do. And it's up to the board to decide. I think it is not the board's, I think it's beyond the scope of the board to call the chief and ask about overtime rates at this particular time. And I think if that's a direction that the board would like me to pursue further, I can do that. But I was asked to put together a plan, and that's what I did. And so we can either agree to that or not agree to it, or if we need more information, that's fine. I would ask that the board send Mr. Weinstein the specific things that they would like to have answered, and I can ask the chief to come to the next meeting. And also I would ask Mr. Pembleton to come to the next meeting, our head of security, and we can try to answer those questions to the best of our ability.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Shawanda?
If I'm not mistaken, 8.1 to 8.16, there's a motion on the floor to approve with the amendment to table 8.9 and 8.16. Is that correct?
That's, yeah.
And John, unfortunately, you have asked for this since the spring. The bottom line is the ball was dropped. And now we're hearing about it's out of the scope of the board, but the board members are the ones sitting here trying to rectify the ball that was dropped. Let's vote. Is there any discussion about that, or can we vote?
There's a motion.
I think people are trying to discuss what they want to discuss, and everybody has the ability to do that. But thanks for your comment on that. Natalie?
It's my understanding the class 2 officers are the backup plan for the class 3 officers,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So we have a backup plan. So people need to stop saying we don't have a backup plan when we do in fact have a better backup plan than we had on June 20th. We have class 2 officers. We didn't have those 4 months ago, correct? So we have a backup plan. So can we stop saying we don't have one because we do, that we're all agreeing to? We're talking about the backup to the backup. Different conversation.
Okay, any comment on it? Any comments, further comments on this? Just to clarify that one point, Natalie, we can't, there's no, I guess, because we have no guarantee that the class 2 or class 3 officers can be provided by the town. That's why this is probably. That's fine.
It's fine, but it's still the backup to the backup.
It's
So let's stop saying we don't
No,
have a
but he is
backup.
making a very valid point that it has been brought forward by the administration that there could be gaps in that plan. And so this is how we ensure that there are no gaps in coverage. This is how we can make sure that as we have anticipated, that we will have an armed officer in every school, and if not, a retired armed officer in every school. So it's to ensure there's no gaps in coverage, that from day one to the final day of school, that we will always have someone present, which was what I thought the whole board had wanted initially. And this is a backup plan to ensure of that.
Okay. Are there any more comments that we want to make?
So we're going to vote on tabling 8.9 and 8.16. We'll do that first.
Right.
And then vote for
Okay,
the
and then
other.
we'll vote
Yes.
for
Right.
8.1
Just,
through.
right, and just to be a final point to that, this is with the premise that we would also have Dr. Stankiewicz, make sure we're bringing in the chiefs and
And Mike Pemberton?
Pemberton, right? To be able to talk to us. Okay,
Okay, so I had Ms. Paramus table, Ms. Gilman second. So now I'm going to do the vote on the tabling, 8.9 to 8:16. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
8.9 and 16. not-
Yes,
not
correct.
216. Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
No.
Ms. McGovern,
No.
Ms. Paramus.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein.
yes.
So the 8.9 and 8.16 are tabled and we have more work to do for the next meeting. Okay, now we're gonna do 8.1 through 8.8. And then, let me get this right, 8.10 through 8.15. And then 8.17, 8.18. Okay, all right, now, we had Ms. Paramus say yes to that. We had Ms. McGovern to say yes to that. So now we're gonna take the vote. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
I have to abstain from 8.7 as it relates to my daughter and yes to everything else.
okay. Ms. Paramus.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, planning and construction. Ms. McGovern.
I don't have them.
No,
Yeah.
Rejection of the bid.
Oh, I'm
that's the
sorry.
rejection of it
Sorry.
that we talked about.
Hold on. Okay, so move to approve the resolution to reject one bid received for the curtain wall replacement project at the TOIS as attached. Can I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Truba?
Any questions on this? Okay, Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paramus.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Policy, I think that's Ms. Gilman, right?
Yes, I'll read that. Move to approve the final revisions to the following policies and or regulations as listed below.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Any questions? Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paramus,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ms. Hayes, public relations.
Yes.
God bless.
Bless you.
11.1, move to approve the donation of 15 backpacks for the 22-23 school year filled with school supplies by the OTES Daisy Brownie Troop 60305, funded through their second annual backpack drive. Do I have a second?
Give me another one.
Oh,
There's two more.
Two more.
11.2, move to approve the interlocal service agreement resolution with the Township of Ocean Municipality regarding Class 3 officers in accordance with the attached. Do I need to read the
No.
resolution?
No.
And 11.3, move to approve the district strategic plan for school years 22 through 27. Copy is attached. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Any questions? One point I'd like to bring up on the Class 3 officers, we do have several shared service agreements with the town. What we did was we made this contract valid for 1 year so that we could all sit down and continue conversations with the township of how we could further partner with shared services. So everybody's aware of that, okay? And Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yes. Old business. So I guess I have one old business part. So as Ms. Truba was stating that we have all these shared services that we do with the town. We originally we're gonna try to meet by the middle of September to go over that, but we're applying for some aid, some stabilization aid from the state. And that's going to take up a little bit more time than we expected. So we're going to be looking at having that meeting with the mayor and the town manager probably towards the middle end of September, maybe a week or so after the 16th, right? So we're going to raise early October, right? Okay. So we're going to have to arrange that. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on where we were with that.
And I'm sorry, who did you say was meeting with the town manager?
We're going over a list of all of our.
No, who, not what.
It's probably going to be, usually it's the president, vice president, superintendent, and the business manager.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think as I talked before, I will send out a reminder of the meeting and ask people if they have questions or topics they'd like me to bring up. I'd be happy to do that as well. Okay. Just one thing on the other part, for our big conversation, before we bring in the chief and Mr. Pembleton, feel free to send me questions that you want those people to ask. If you can send these earlier than later, when it gets at the end, it's hard to kind of disseminate this and look through them and get them to the right people.
And the
So
ones that we sent already, are you going to kind of?
the ones we sent already, Jim and I are meeting to discuss. We had a quick purview of these. We're going to break down the ones that are going to be discussed in executive session, the ones that will be in open session, the ones that need other people to be there to help support whatever those questions were. Okay. Anybody else for old business?
I do.
Oh, yep, Ms. Hayes.
How did the Genesis rollout go? I know 2 weeks ago, there were a little bit of, hiccups. So I'm just wondering, assuming everything went okay, if we can get an update. Yeah.
Want me to answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it went well. Absolutely. I think the first, in the initial rollout, I think there were, some glitches. Some things, some people's emails went to spam. Some, there were a couple things that were that we had to address. We initially, received some calls from parents, and those within a couple of days, we received very few. So I think we were able to address a lot of the initial issues, and I think now, I think by the time we got to the elementary schools, releasing their schedules by the 24th, it was in a much better place. And there's been some initial staff trainings, and of course, more training for staff once they arrive on Thursday.
Great.
And my follow-up question was, not everyone's received the supply list from their teachers. So is there like a drop date that we should all have our list? And then when do bus schedules come out?
Bus schedules were mailed, I believe, yesterday.
Correct.
So they should be coming home. If they don't already have them, I would say probably by tomorrow, I would hope.
And Genesis?
We are working to put them on Genesis. They're not there yet.
Or emailed?
We have not emailed them.
Hard copy
Genesis went
letter. They went out.
Via mail.
Yeah, I brought this up earlier. That just concerns me a little bit because I had a friend literally put something in the mail last Monday from Tinton Falls, and I live in Oakhurst and I have yet to receive it yet. So that's 8 days. So, I'd hate it to be Sunday night and people don't have their bus info yet. So
we're working to try to get it into Genesis this week if we can.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Supply lists.
Well, the general supply lists were put out. Many of the elementary school supply lists are done by teacher. We did ask, I've asked the principals to send an email to their teachers to ask if they had anything specific beyond the general supply list, if they could post it on their Google Classrooms or on their class dojos or whatever they use as soon as possible. Because we did receive some folks who called us to say they would like to take advantage of the school holiday.
The tax
The
holiday.
tax holiday.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, obviously we, I think a lot of staff members did that as much as early as they can, but obviously we're not officially back until Thursday. So, hopefully everything, if anybody has any extra supplies that they require, that, hopefully they'll be able to invite their classes to their classrooms by Friday at the latest. I mean, if not, they'll do it when the kids return, and unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of the tax holiday at that point. But I think we've done what we can to try to get that up there as early as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for our business? Okay, anybody else for anything for new business? Yes, Ms. McGovern.
Just as I like to do every year in this meeting, I just want to thank our facility staff, our supervisors, our our people in the bus department, our administrators on getting us prepared as much as we can for the first day of school. We know that there's always going to be hiccups, but without you guys and all your hard work, we wouldn't be less hiccupy, I guess we could say. And I just want to wish Dr. Stefankowitz, who, as we know, is retiring, a great last day of school this year. And, from all of us, or from me, I guess. I can't really speak for the
I was
board,
gonna say,
but
don't
from
speak for- don't
myself.
speak.
But,
Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody who's been working very, very hard, central office as well. So thank you.
Great. Anybody else for new business? Yeah.
I attended the new teacher orientation, and there's nothing more rewarding to a teacher to see former students come back to teach in the district. And in speaking to one or two of them, they both said that the interview process at Ocean Township was extraordinary. And several of them had offers from other districts. They chose to come here. They chose to return and work in Ocean. And that's what makes us different. That's what makes us Ocean. And I thought that the presentation was wonderful, that the enthusiasm in the room was really high. Ms. Weldon's presentation got right off the bat. And so I wish all of our new teachers well. I hope they have the same rewarding career that I did in the district.
Anybody else have anything for new business? Jim, did you want to?
Yeah, real quick, and I apologize, forgot to mention this in my report. So a couple, I want to say a week or 10 days ago, maybe.
Yep.
Mr. Weinstein had forwarded an email, I guess from local rabbi from one of the local temples regarding a program that they were involved with called Hate Now Ends. And it's called the Cattle Car Stepping In and Out of Darkness. And it's a Holocaust program where I believe they actually physically have a cattle car, a train car that would simulate the cars that transported individuals to concentration camps. Very similar, if you've been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, similar to the car that you walk through there. And so we had our secondary social studies supervisor contact the individual. And so we are in the process of planning, I think, the week of the 12th, September 12th, to have that car at the high school for, unfortunately, not all, but a number of our students who are in classes appropriate, our Holocaust studies class, our US II history classes, maybe some others, trying to obviously maximize as many kids as possible. But I'll send you more information on that once everything is finalized to the board, but just wanted to make you aware. I think that could be a very powerful program coming to the high school, and I'll give you more information.
Yeah, I do want to thank Alan Winters, who is in our community, who took the time to kind of track me down in a social event and pull me aside. So I've known Alan for years, and kind of walked me through the program, and he was greatly appreciative of the school kind of doing this. This is something near and dear to his heart, that he wants to make sure the message kind of got out. So I just want to thank Alan for that. Yep.
I'm sorry. Mr. Stankwitz, I forgot to ask you this upstairs, and that's probably the more appropriate place, but before I forget, back to school night, I don't know that we've talked about it. I know that in years past, it stopped COVID, that board members were attending. I don't know if that's the feeling this year that we should be back to attending, and if so, so if we are attending, to probably do a schedule sooner rather than later before our next board meeting. You know, so I mean, I'm more than happy to do a schedule, and, you know, try and figure out the schedule. If people want to contact me, if that's
Yeah.
okay with you, if that's something that we want to do. So
Yeah, I think we do that every year, right? We're.
we haven't done it in a while.
Okay, I'm sorry, a
but,
couple of years. Yeah, it'd be nice to bring it back, yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm okay with, do you mind
I
coordinating
don't
that?
mind coordinating. Is everybody interested in doing that again?
Yeah.
Or to whatever degree?
Did we
Okay.
just, can you remind me, we just.
We just
came
stood
at the
there,
beginning.
some.
Just came, yeah.
Okay.
There was a handout. I don't think there will be this year with the, I
I
don't know,
thought-
maybe
yeah.
we'll talk about it, but
Okay.
Yep.
at least that part.
Anybody else from your business? Yep.
Sorry, I think we brought this up earlier. I don't want this to be a lengthy discussion. Somebody mentioned about, can we talk about school IDs at a future meeting? So how can we proceed to get that greater discussion? It was like 2 hours ago. Somebody said, oh, we should ask downstairs
Well,
about.
Yeah, I think that's probably in the context of our security discussion. We'll make that part of the context. of
Okay.
that. Okay,
Cool.
great. Yes, John.
That discussion's happening when? What date?
We're gonna be in a place that on the 14th. Oh, no, the 13th, sorry.
Of September?
September, yeah, that's the next board meeting.
And so that's gonna encompass all the discussions. Then can we share the reading of the security, the minutes from the last security meeting at that as well?
The minutes of the,
The minutes that were shared previously that I brought up multiple times, the security discussion that was had with the administration, there were minutes that came out of that.
yes, but I think you'd have to do that in executive.
Right, yeah, I believe that every question that's been posed is gonna be an executive session,
Right,
correct?
yes. Although there's some that won't be. Not all the questions that were posed that you gave me an email for. Some of those are open discussion, not all of them, because I got.
You're gonna split them
multiple-
up?
I got multiple from multiple people.
Okay.
And I think the challenge that we had is I got some on late Friday. So I couldn't really do much with all that.
But every question will be responded to by that
On the
meeting.
14th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you might have to start an executive session a little earlier, so we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. Okay. Anybody else have anything for new business? No, so just on last thing, when I just want to piggyback off what some of the other individuals saying, I really enjoyed meeting all the new teachers during orientation. And I do want to thank everybody for all the work they did in the summer, because I know it's not as fun as it could be. So I appreciate all the work and just really excited for the new year, and hopefully we can have a school year that is normal and successful for everybody. So just thank you all for your work on that. Let me go on to public comment. Anybody in the public like to make a comment at this time? Anybody sitting here? No? Okay, Ms. Conway, anybody on the line like to make a comment?
No, there are no public commenters at this time, President Weinstein.
With that, everybody have a good school year, and can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Great, thank you very much.